Hello world, my name is Wain. I'm a Malaysian web engineer working in Tokyo, and I'm currently trying to discover myself as an artist on YouTube. First of all, I would like to apologize for my voice. I got a little sick since last week. My throat is a little sore, and I have difficulty breathing, but I'll try to make a quick recording today and move on. In today's video, I want to just ramble about a few things related to my artist journey. I will be labeling each section of the video so you can have a rough idea of the things I will be talking about. So sit back, grab a hot cup of tea or coffee or whatever you like, and I hope you enjoy my little sketch and monologue. Believe it or not, this yellow sketchbook is the first book I bought for myself in years, maybe a decade even. I bought a box of 6B pencils for myself for the first time in my life. I used to buy and use mechanical pencils with 2B refills when I was in school. It was convenient for writing notes and good enough for me to doodle whenever I wanted. It was also less messy because I didn't have to sharpen my pencils or keep a pencil sharpener around or clean out the shavings frequently. But anyway, the point is, mechanical pencils are great, but I figured one step I could take toward being more of an artist, silly as it sounds, is to use a regular 6B pencil, which I heard is softer and produces darker shades compared to 2B pencils. When it comes to colors, I've only ever painted with poster color a few times in school for different art classes. I never had a good experience painting traditionally in school. Perhaps I didn't learn the right way to handle art tools in class, but I always ended up with a wet sheet of art paper with muddy colors. Having to wait for the paper to dry before I can paint again, I would get impatient and just doodle in my school exercise books in the meantime. When I think about it, if digital illustration were not invented in my time, I would have stuck to just drawing in pencil and ink for the rest of my life. I never had the kind of money or motivation to paint traditionally. I did try painting once on canvas when I was jobless in my mid-20s. I was trying to get out of the house and happened across a painting class one day, which provided brushes, paint, and a canvas at a price. It wasn't really a class, but more like a here's an example, now follow along sort of session. And ironically, I was the only person who turned up for the class, so it was a little depressing. The host of the class just left me to my tools and chatted with their friends while I quietly toiled on my first attempt of painting on canvas. It was the first and last canvas painting I ever made. It was a picture of a penguin, copied from the cover of a National Geography magazine, I think. I don't quite remember, but the color was mostly blue for the background and black and white with some yellow highlight on the body of the penguin. I think my mom hung up the canvas painting in the living room for a couple years. That was the only wall decoration I ever remember having. I don't know if my mom was ever proud of the only painting I made. Being a typical old Asian mom, she was a little stingy with words of affirmation or encouragement. Just to draw a comparison with traditional art, painting digitally was and still is the most efficient way for me to create art. When it comes to cost, there is no need to buy tubes of paint or worry about dried paint or having to replace them. I also get to save space because there is no need to worry about where to store my tubes of paint, where to store my brushes or canvases, which I imagine would accumulate as I draw. Digital painting is also a little healthier for me, I think. because the smell of paint makes me sick after a while, and I like to get in the zone of doing something. And when I get in the zone of doing something, I don't want to interrupt my session by having to take a break due to feeling nauseous. And it's ultimately more convenient. I can undo, redo, copy-paste, work in layers even. Anyway, even with all this convenience, I still couldn't improve my art skills in ways that I wanted. It's probably a common theme with a lot of other artists. I think in my case, I lack some fundamental knowledge that is supposed to supplement my ability to paint digitally. The benefits of painting digitally has made me overlook the importance of color theory or composition, things that are agnostic of medium. By buying this yellow sketchbook, I'm hoping to remind myself to be more deliberate with my art. When the book is open and when I'm holding this 6B pencil which I deliberately bought for sketching, I have to remind myself to take some time to think about what aspect of my skill I'm trying to improve, not just doodling without thinking. Ultimately, I hope that this yellow book marks the beginning of rediscovering myself as an artist. When it comes to my skills, in terms of human anatomy, I think I'm satisfied with my skill level. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I want to improve in other areas. For example, I am aware of my lack of foundations in many types of animal anatomy or architecture or interior design, things that are often overlooked because they are usually used as components of a larger scene rather than the main focus of an illustration. I have been purely self-taught throughout my life as an artist. I studied computer science instead of going to art school because, ironically, the courses were cheaper and the job prospects were more promising. And true enough, today I have become a web engineer who found my way to Japan, writing code and making a decent amount of money to afford some luxuries like games or toys or electronics, which I don't even have time for as an adult. Anyway, since I never formally went to art school, I never knew the right way to learn, so I just drew whatever I liked. That meant I avoided things that I disliked or found difficult to draw. Things like machines, natural landscape, inanimate objects, interior and exterior design, fashion, and so on. I have a habit of just drawing characters in t-shirt and pants because they're the easiest. And now that I'm older, I realize that one aspect that makes characters appealing is the way that they dress and pose, something I never thought about deep enough. And ultimately, I never learned how to color properly because it was time consuming, and I am usually impatient. I never really understood color theory, despite watching videos multiple times. Knowing what I know now, I wish I could tell my younger self that the best way to learn is to just try painting, making mistakes, and learning from the mistakes repeatedly. I learned so many things as an adult now that I spend more time thinking and reading books instead of distracting myself with games. I know it sounds strange, but I realized that when I spent so much of my free time playing games or watching movies or hanging out with my school friends, I never had much time to seriously reflect on my hobbies and passions, whether it was traditional or digital art or even side interests such as music or animation. I assumed that improving my skill in art was simply done by passively looking at the artwork of better artists and copying or tracing what I saw. I assumed that my skills would naturally improve over time as I kept drawing, no matter what. But the truth is, the learning process is mostly what goes on in the mind. Reviewing what I draw, what went wrong, and thinking about what could be improved. I have a habit of doodling without thinking, and then moving on to the next picture without critically analyzing my art. A lot of the really good elaborate artwork that I usually see, I think they start from a careful and deliberate thinking process, basically the composition, right? Now that I am aware of it, I realize how difficult it is to intentionally compose a scene that tells a story visually. But it's also kind of exciting to think that I can make better illustrations by simply putting more thought into the creation process. In the past year, I started watching art-related videos on YouTube and reading art-related books, mostly about composition and color theory because those are my weakest points. Honestly, I'm so disappointed in myself that it took me so long to realize this. The golden ratio, the rule of thirds, and many more, I never knew about these techniques of composition until recently, as in the past 3 years or so. Now, whenever I look at other people's photos or artwork, I make more conscious effort to guess what composition techniques or color combinations the artist used and what mood they were trying to evoke in the viewer. Thinking critically like this is a little exhausting because at the end of the day, everything is just speculation unless the artists themselves explicitly explain their artwork. But I still think it's worth being more mindful about the content that I consume and try to put myself in the shoes of the creators. When it comes to creating art, I draw character art 99% of the time. You can easily notice that from my Instagram or Tumblr pages. But when it comes to consuming art, I actually prefer looking at illustrations of scenery. At the back of my mind, I want to create stunning and intricate compositions, but because rendering such art takes so much time, usually dozens of hours, I tend to give up early and just fall back on doodling character art. Thinking about how much I avoided difficult things despite wanting to be good at it, I'm a little sad and disappointed, but I won't give up. I want to improve my composition and coloring skills from now on. I know it will take time, but I hope this video will be a significant milestone in my journey as an artist. Anyway, that's all for my rambling today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the video of me sketching random things. This was actually fun to make, so I hope to create more simple draw with me videos like this in the future. I'll see you in the next video, hopefully after my voice has fully recovered. Bye.